Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I have another great show for you today. I have an individual who is doing big things in real estate, the podcasting world, but I've invited him here today to not only share his background, but also give us the sort of deep dive around syndication. I have Kyle Mitchell with us today. How are you doing this morning, Kyle?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I know, no problem at all. Well, I think we always start these interviews off by starting about kind of your story in the beginning. And why don't you just first tell people where you are in the country, a little bit about yourself, and then we'll really dive in.
Yeah, sure. I'm in Southern California in a city called Cerritos, which is about 20, 30 minutes south of LA. And a little bit about myself is, I've been investing in real estate for about 5 years, but prior to that, I was a regional manager for a golf management company. So I oversaw about 250 employees, about 20 million in revenue. And I did that ever since kind of I was growing up. Got a high school job with them and slowly kind of got promotions throughout the way and ended up being a regional manager. And along that journey, I never thought I'd be in the golf business the rest of my life. And so I never had a chance to kind of pick and choose what I really wanted to do. And then I found real estate and I fell in love with real estate, got addicted to it, started educating myself, reading books, going to seminars, listening to a bunch of podcasts, and it's kind of all downhill from there. So I originally started purchasing single-family homes out here in the Long Beach area in Southern California, and I had a pretty bad experience with a tenant, a professional tenant, and took me about 6 to 8 months to kind of get that person out of the house. And after that, I was like, man, I got to get out of California. The landlord-tenant laws here aren't very favorable. And I purchased some single-family homes in Arkansas, which is the most landlord-friendly state in the United States. And so that's kind of how I began my journey of investing out of state. And from there, we got into some multifamily later down the road.
Very, very cool. So let's just peel that back just a little bit, and then we'll get into the bigger story. So you start with single family in and around Long Beach. So this would have been what, 5 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah, 2013, 2014.
Okay. All right. And then you just do the standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, or did you look for, were you picky, or what was that first deal like in Long Beach?
Yeah, I was looking for cash flow, right? So I knew that I wanted to, put about 20% down, invest about 100 grand and get, X dollars back. And so I actually ended up getting a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. It was a 2-car garage.
Okay.
And it actually was cash flowing, which is, not something you see often in California for sure.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, but it was good. But what I didn't do, or what I failed to do, was really vet the tenant. I had my real estate agent kind of place the tenant in the single family home, and I just trusted him.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest mistake. So basically, that person was subletting out to a bunch of other people, and he was collecting rent and wasn't paying me. And so when I first got into it, I tried to evict him myself. So I was filing all the paperwork with the courts, and I didn't realize that if, let's just say they owed you $3,000 in rent, and they paid you $50 for that month, and they said, here, go ahead and take this $50, I'll pay you the rest later. Well, at that point, I'm accepting some money for rent. So I need to start the process all over from day one with the eviction process. Well, I didn't know that. And, the communication with the courts is not always very quick. So I didn't find out until about 3 months into the process that, hey, everything you've been doing, you've got to start over from day one. So it ended up being a long process. Took me about 8 months to get him out. I ended up hiring an attorney, and we did get him out. And luckily, the market was appreciating at that time. So when I did sell the property, I was still able to make a couple $1,000s, nothing great, but still, about broke even or just made a little bit more, and then took that equity and started investing out of state.
Wow. So you had a lot there. So first and foremost, it shouldn't be lost on anyone that the house you bought was roughly $500,000, which is crazy, right? $100,000 down, 20%. That's how I kind of got to that number. And that's California, or at least most markets in California for you. It's an interesting place to look for cash flow. And then you found a professional tenant, which I have been, lucky or unlucky enough to do a couple of times over the years. So I know exactly what you were going through. And then you said, that's enough for me in California, right? The tenant laws are unfriendly. And then you go to the other side and go to Arkansas. So let's talk about Arkansas real quick. So did you do a 1031, or I guess you didn't really have much of a gain, so you just sold probably?
Yep, I just sold. I wanted to get out and kind of start fresh and out of state. And one of the things about out of state for me is a lot of people are a little worried about going out of state because they lose that control. But what I wanted to do was put in systems and hire people to manage my properties for me, so I wasn't the one doing it. You know, going through that whole process of trying to do everything myself when I wasn't the one that was highly educated on it was the problem. So I wanted to hire people who are professionals at what they do to manage the property for me.
Very cool. I totally agree. I invest out of the area, not quite out of state, but still 2.5 hours away. And originally it was like, how much control am I giving up? But it's been the best thing for me, because now you can run it like a business, right? You're managing the team, you're running checks and balances, you're setting expectations. And also, let's be fair, right? If something doesn't perform, you fire them and you start anew. So you are truly running a business. So you get to Arkansas. What does that first look like? You buy 3-4 houses because the price points are different, or what happened?
Yeah, at first I start small and I just buy 2 houses. And really at that point, I was doing my research and learned that you definitely want to diversify. So I bought a couple of houses there, bought some more in Ohio, and a few just outside of the Chicago area in Illinois. So I have 3 different markets where I have 9 or 10 single family homes.
Okay.
And from there, you know, they were cash flowing and they were great. I've had them for several years now. And they definitely don't come without their challenges either. And we'll dive into that if you'd like. But from there, you know, I wanted to start scaling. And right. I had this dream of X dollars in amount in passive income. And I figured out that, you know, I'm going to need a lot of single family homes to get to that number. And after 10 loans, you know, it becomes a challenge for sure to start getting those loans from Fannie or Freddie. So I started looking into multifamily, and that's where I found multifamily syndication.
Yeah, well, let's go there now, right? Because most people start with single family homes or, you know, a duplex or something because it's what's easiest to finance. It's kind of the most comfortable. But at some point you get into this and you're like, okay, I get it. I want more. In your words, scale. And again, scale for you meant commercial / apartment buildings, I'm guessing?
Scale just meant more ability to leverage and also create passive income, right? So I was running out of my own money, number one, and the number of loans that you can get, you know, number two. So I needed to find something else in order to grow my portfolio. And so that's kind of how I found syndication.
Very cool. So, so let's talk about syndication and really sort of break it down for folks. You know, you as the general partner, I assume. Did you invest passively as a limited partner in any, or did you jump right to the general?
I jumped right into the general, and basically, you know, I spent about a year before I really did anything, educating myself, joined some mastermind groups, joined some educational platforms, just to educate myself on the whole process to see if it was something that really, you know, made sense for me, fit my goals. And once I decided that it did, that's kind of when we went full bore at it.
Very cool. So let's break that year of exercise, experience gathering, knowledge gathering down. What was it about the syndication in that year of investigating that kind of just spoke to you?
Yeah, well, number one, buying apartment buildings and being able to partner with other people to leverage and purchase larger buildings, right? So you can't do that with your own money, or eventually you're going to run out. So I thought it was an interesting model for sure, where you can just get a group of people together and purchase larger buildings and then sharing the profits with it together. So it's definitely a group and team effort. And I like that aspect of it.
And also now now I assume you're looking all over the country for opportunities to investigate, I would assume. Is that true?
Well, we were. And so the one thing we're about now is focus, right? And so really focusing in and honing in on a market. So we typically look in the Arizona market, so Phoenix and Tucson,
Okay.
Arizona right now. And the reason why I say focus is because I'm out there every other week at least, and being able to meet with brokers, meet with our teams, our property management company. And when you're looking all over the country, it's definitely difficult to build those relationships. And I'm all about those relationships. And so we focused on that. We do look at a couple other markets, but we're really not in those markets. We would probably partner with some other people who have established relationships already in those markets.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And again, I've said it many times and probably will say it many more times, that this business is a relationship business. It's not about the buildings. It's about the people. Because no matter what you're doing, right, whether it's borrowing money, putting in tenants, I mean, it's all people. So what was it about Phoenix and Tucson that turned you on? Is it just the geographically located you get to in 45 minutes or an hour, or what was it?
That's one of them, but it didn't start that way. Originally, we were looking in Ohio as well. So geographically, it does fit because I can be there in 5 hours or 7 hours or an hour flight. But it's everything you kind of look for in a city. You know, it's got great job diversity, income growth, population growth, job growth, all those sorts of metrics. They both fit the bill, especially on the job growth side. We really like Phoenix in the sense that their job diversity over the last 10, 11 years has really stabilized. You know, back in 2007 and 8 and 9, both these markets got hit pretty hard. And I think one of the major factors was their job diversity.
Mm-hmm.
But over the last 10 years, they've done a really strong job of fixing that issue.
Very cool. All right. So you're in the market. What are some of the apartment buildings or deals that you've considered out there?
Yeah, so we look for B2C value add. So something where it's either underperforming or mismanaged by the current ownership, where we can take our skills and ability and inject some capital and implement some systems in order to get the best out of that property and drive the bottom line. And which is why I like multifamily, right? Because it is a business. And so it's valued based on those business metrics. And so that's one of the biggest differences between single family homes and multifamily that I love.
Very, very cool. So I'm guessing since you've been out there for a while now, you've been considering and looking at, or underwriting, I guess you would call it in the apartment game, a bunch of different buildings. You care to talk about one that you've looked at or evaluated?
Yeah, I mean, we're under contract right now for a property out in Tucson. I can't talk too much about it, but because we're still going through that process, but we do have that building. But, you know, it took 75 to 100 different properties that we looked at between the two markets, and definitely, you know, 30, 40 trips out to those markets, meeting with brokers, touring properties to find that one. So it's definitely competitive out there, and you just got to keep plugging it away. But yeah, you just stick to your numbers. And I think going back to the relationship business, that's how we found this one, is by building those relationships. We happened to be in the market at that time. On that day that the broker got the listing, he said, Kyle, hey, I just got the keys. Do you want to come take a look at this property? And I said, yeah, sure. So we were the first ones to see it. And so we kind of got a head start on everyone. And that's how we were able to get it under contract.
I mean, again, some people, you know, that watch YouTube University or whatnot, you know, see the apartment syndication as a get rich quick, you know, avenue, right? Bigger, everybody's money. I don't have any skin in the game. And that's just not true, right?
It is not true.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work. All the syndicators that I know are evaluating dozens and dozens of deals before they even find one to go look at, let alone get through the due diligence and then write an offer and then negotiate. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything that you said is 100% true and then some, you know, and that's just the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Because when you close on the project, now it's really where the real work begins. You've got to manage the property and then get it to perform at the levels that you want it to. So it's definitely a long process, but it's something that I enjoy, and I like watching the progression of the property kind of get to the point where you want your end goal to be. So
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So without giving away too much details, because I'm just a deal jockey. What was it about the Tucson deal that was exciting? Was it the unit count, the mix, the right deferred maintenance, or what was it about that deal? It's like, oh, we got to jump on this one.
Yeah, location number one was great, and then the fact that it's just right now it's mismanaged and
Mm-hmm.
just not performing where it should be compared to the other properties in that area. So, you know, there is some deferred maintenance, and it does need a bit of a facelift, but that's kind of what we look for, right? Something that you can put money back into and get to be performing equal or above the level of the competition.
Yeah.
And so those two combined, we really just love out-of-state owners who are very hands-off, and we're a very hands-on type of organization. And so when you take that and you can implement that into your business model and strategy, there's definitely some value to be had.
Very cool. So how many units? 50, 100, 500? How many units?
This one's 42.
42 units. All like 2-bedroom, 2 baths, I have no idea.
So it's a mix of studios and 1-beds. It's in the Tucson area down the street from University of Arizona. So
there you go.
Definitely, it's definitely a college town, which we like as well. So the location is key in this one.
Single story?
It is. No, I'm sorry. 2-story.
2-story. Very cool. All right. Very cool. So you're in contract. So usually in these situations, I assume you're getting a loan, or are you coming in with the kind of investors and buying cash, or what's going on?
So on stuff like this for our syndications, our business model basically is to lock up long-term debt with an agency loan through Freddie or Fannie, and then also raise some capital on the front end to pay for the down payment and for the capital improvements of the property.
Right.
So, there's really 3 rules of thumb, and we follow kind of the Joe Fairless model, where it's make sure the property cash flows on day one, lock up long-term debt. So we look for 10-year plus fixed terms, and then also raise enough money on the front end to be able to inject the capital. So we don't utilize the cash flow to then put back into the property. And one of the reasons is because if there's a downturn and your cash flow tightens, now you can't put that money back in the property. You can't implement your business plan. And so raising the money up front allows us to implement the business plan, whether we're going through a downturn or not.
Yeah, and that's, again, right, without giving specifics, that's one of the keys to doing this right, is you're raising the down payment and the expected capital expenditures probably for the first year to 18 months, I'm guessing?
Yep, exactly, about 18 months.
Yeah. And then when you look at this opportunity, you obviously have thought about what the future might be. Do you envision this being a 5 to 10 year hold, or you're going to hold it forever, or what's the plan, you think?
Yeah, I mean, for our business model, it's typically 5 to 7 years, but we will always take a look at it year to year and see where we stand based on the market. So every year we're going to be getting a BPO, broker's price opinion, and seeing if we can maybe exit a little bit early. So that's the other thing about multifamily that I love, is there's multiple exit strategies. Although you have one base strategy, there's definitely other ways that you can exit. Yeah.
And again, lots of times the reason syndication and being the general partner works is because you can get those limited partners. Now, without giving any specifics, I assume you're probably doing quarterly distributions, and then, if there's a refi exit in 3 to 5 years, everybody gets paid back, or that kind of general stuff, or what's going on?
Yep, that's it. And then we also allow the limited partners to keep their equity in the properties if we do have a refinance event.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. And then, this deal, should it go through, you expect to close next month in June, or when are you thinking?
In the next 40 to 45 days. So somewhere in the end of May, hopefully.
Yeah. End of May, June, early June. Okay. Very, very cool. And then, have you thought about what you're trying to do all year? Is it this kind of the one you want to cut your teeth with and go forward, or you're going, hey, 42's, on the board and we're going to go get another 100, or what's the rest of the year look like?
Yeah, for us, we're in acquisition mode. So we're looking to take down 3 or 4 deals this year, and certainly looking to create relationships where we can partner up and kind of take down larger deals. And so that's what we're also focused on. But right now, for the next 30 to 40 days, we're focused on this property. But going forward, we have some plans for the next 6 months on the back half of the year to close on a couple more.
Very, very cool. So let's just fast forward to June 7th. The deal's closed. What happens? Do you already have kind of what you're going to spend 2 weeks out there, or what's it look like for you? Let's assume
spend a lot of time out there, and that'll be with all our properties that we look for. Is just want to make sure that the business plan is being implemented as we've kind of set forth with the property management team. But with this model, we set all of our expectations up beforehand. And that's how we picked our property management team. We interviewed a ton of those property management companies, and we picked the one that we felt was the strongest for what we're looking for. And so they understand what our model is, and they've helped us, on this project and all projects going forward. They'll go tour the property, they'll write a pro forma and all that kind of stuff. And we'll talk about the business plan for each of these that we make offers on prior to even getting under contract, so that we're all on the same page to make sure that, hey, can this really be done? Are the rents where we're going to get, are the rents achievable, so on and so forth. So yeah, we already have the business plan in place, and it'll start on day one of close. And yeah, I will be out there for the first couple of weeks to make sure everything goes smoothly, because as we know in real estate, everything does not always go according to plan.
Amen. Amen to that. That's no truer words have been said. So, one thing I'm trying to do with these interviews now is to try to get advice for people watching. So let's pretend, let's pretend you're, how should I say this to make it right? Let's give some advice to people considering being limited partners in other syndicators. So not yours, right? Let's just take that off the table for now. If you were thinking about being an LP in a syndication, what advice would you give them, right? Let's say it's your mom, your wife, someone you really know that's close to you. What would be the 2 or 3 things you would say, hey, check this out, ask this question, do these kinds of things? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, the first thing I always tell people is to make sure it aligns with your goals, right? And that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people say, oh, I want passive income, but there's several ways to get passive income.
Yeah.
And so you've got to figure out what fits your goals, what fits your timeline. And then the next thing would be, who's the deal sponsor? Do you trust this person? Have you started building a relationship with them? What do you know about them? And are they capable of it? And do they have a team built behind it? And from there, then it's all about the deal and looking at it, the location. Is it what they're saying? So you always want to trust but verify, right? Mm-hmm. So those would be the 3 things I would say.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. One of the things that I tell people, and this is true for syndication and out-of-state turnkey single-family homes. Same answer applies. If you're going to go that direction, you need to vet the person first, right? The person or their team or whatever you want to call it. Then look at their market, their chosen market, and then look at the deal, right? Too many people go the other direction, right? They get attracted by, in your case, the 42 unit in Tucson, 2-story studio, single family or 1 bedrooms. But no, I tell them no. Interview the person, get to know the person, make sure they're aligned with you. Because you're going to have a hard conversation sometime in the future, right? There'll be an unexpected expense, whatever, and you got to make sure that you get that person. Then look at their market, make sure that you see the same market advantages, right? And then look at the deal. Would you agree?
100%. I mean, I told someone this the other day, is that you can look at 100 deals, and every deal is going to have something a little bit different. One's going to have a higher return, or one's going to be projected this way, but you can always find a deal that has a better return or a worse return than the one that you're currently looking at, right? And so it really doesn't really come back down to that. It really comes down to the person that you're investing with. Yeah. And then, like you said, the market, do you believe in that market? And then from there, you can look at the deal.
Yeah, excellent. So hopefully some people watching this want to reach out and learn more about you and your market. How can they get a hold of you? Where can they check you out? Where can they find your podcast? You're doing so many big things. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you or follow you or whatever you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. My phone number, if they want to just call me direct, is 562-833-5010. Our website is limitless-estates.com. And then the podcast that we have is Passive Income Through Multifamily Real Estate.
And that's on all the podcast platforms and
yep,
all that stuff. Well, Kyle, this has been a lot of fun. I look forward to following your journey. I love what you and your wife are doing, giving back and helping people. Why don't you give your phone number one more time in case they were scrambling for a pen?
Yeah, great. 562-833-5010.
All right, Kyle, thank you very much for this, and congratulations on locking up that deal.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael.
All right, take care.
Okay.